Alrighty, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 18 of COD Talks. I am your host, Furs95. Alrighty, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 18 of COD Talks. I am your host, Furs95. I am back. Finally, I am back. I apologize for all the technical difficulties I was having. Thank you, Bill Gates, for that. I was also on break for a while there. I went on a 8-day vacation with the fam to Europe, which was great. It was great to get away from everything, but I am back and I am ready to go. Ready to talk about some COD, man. I missed out on a lot. Unfortunately, I missed out on, I think it was the first 2 weeks of Division B Pro League I didn't get to talk about, which obviously was our first glance at the new Optic roster. I do have a lot of thoughts on that, but this episode is going to be strictly a CWL preview, CWL Anaheim preview, I should say, which was obviously coming up this weekend, as most of you guys are aware. Tournament starts on Friday, and I am very excited. Anaheim is always one of the best tournaments of the year. But again, I just another thing about Anaheim is the fact that it's so historic, right? We have some of the most historic matchups of all time. One of the best matches I can remember throughout my entire life as a competitive COD fan was back at I think it was, it was during Black Ops 2. It was the infamous match between Impact and Complexity, where that whole Cole EG dynasty really started. And, so there's just a lot of history at Anaheim. And I think this year will be no different, just considering all the competition. I mean, it's just at an all-time high. It only gets better. And I'm really excited to get things going. But with that said, guys, I am going to get into my predictions for the event. So first and foremost, let's go over the pools for this event in case you guys didn't see them. So, excuse me, in Pool A, we have Red Reserve, E United, FaZe Clan, Tainted Minds, and an open bracket team. In Pool B, we have Rise Nation, Team Caliber, Luminosity, Epsilon, and an open bracket team. In Pool C, we have Evil Geniuses, Unilad Esports, Echo Fox, Mind Freak, and an open bracket team. And finally, in Pool D, we have Optic Gaming, Envious, oh my god, again, Complexity Gaming, Splice, and an open bracket team. So, first and foremost, let's start off with Pool A. This is an interesting pool for sure. Always you got the E United FaZe sort of rivalry, kind of. I know it's obviously Clay's old team, but I don't think there's any bad blood or anything there. But that's always a fun, interesting matchup. And then Red Reserve, man, Red Reserve has looked very good so far. With their new roster ever since they added on Scraps. I think he was kind of like the missing piece for this team. He's really added a lot of that extra level of SMG play. He's probably Europe's best SMG player alongside of Jurd. So, great addition to the team, and Red Reserve has really cemented themselves, in my opinion, as a top 4 team in the world right now. I definitely have them finishing first in this pool, but I think, again, and you go down the list here, E United is the two seed, and E United is the most bizarre team I think we've ever had. I mean, they're a team that quite literally can beat anyone in the game, and they can quite literally lose to anyone in the game. I mean, they're a team that is just so wildly, inconsistent is one way to put it, but they play to the level of their competition no matter who they're playing. It's like it doesn't matter. It's just crazy because they're the only team. I mean, like we've seen in Pro League, right? They've taken out Rise and Optic Gaming so far, which are, in my opinion, in terms of power rankings, they're the 2 best teams in the game right now. So, it's just insane to see. Just like they have the talent to win an event because the fact that they've proven they can beat anyone in the game. But the problem with this team, of course, like I said earlier, is consistency, right? They just don't seem to have consistent play. For example, Arcides in particular, I think it was in the Optic match where he was like 3-15 at one point in like, I think it was map 1, the hard point, and then in the second hard point he comes out and just absolutely fries, goes like triple positive. It's just crazy. Like they're just, and it's just kind of, they're a tale of 2 teams, and you just never know what you're going to get with the United. But I do think they are going to finish second in this pool. Big reason for that is the fact that FaZe Clan, who was the 3 seed, is been struggling. Attach in particular just does not seem to be comfortable in this game right now. He's switched over to the flex role, which was an interesting move, I thought. And I think Priesta is now their second SMG alongside of Zuma. And interesting change. I don't know if it's one. I mean, again, I'm not going to say I disagree with it or not because I don't know necessarily. Maybe it's some internal problems that they've been having. Maybe it's pacing issues. I haven't been able to watch a ton of phases recent matches in Pro League, but I do know that they switch roles. And again, Attach, it's just weird because Attach has been such a strong, consistent sub for the past several years now. I would put him, maybe not quite at like that Scump John level, but like maybe just half a tier down in terms of his consistency game in and game out as an SMG, which is really difficult. That's a difficult thing to do. It's really hard to be a consistently strong SMG slaying wise throughout COD. SMG is generally going to be a tougher role to play than an AR or Flex, and it's an interesting change. I think it's one that's maybe needed though. I think FaZe needed to shake something up. Things just have not really been working really ever since they won stage 1 playoffs. They have not really been able to continue on with that stride that they found at that event. So I think a change was needed. But ultimately, I don't see Attach really thriving in this role, and again, Replays has still not really been able to elevate his gameplay up to that to be a consistently strong slaying main AR, which is what you need in this game, as we talk about time and time again. And I just don't think Replays has been able to do that. And mainly due to those two reasons, I just don't see FaZe succeeding too much in this tournament. And I do have them finishing third in this group. And moving down the list, Tainted Minds at number 4. I think this is a group that you definitely could see an open bracket team come in and make some noise. Tainted Minds has looked kind of weak in the Pro League so far. I know I was impressed with the fact that they qualified for Pro League, but ever since they've qualified, I don't know what their record is. I don't know if they've won a match, maybe one or two, but they haven't looked too good. And I think this is definitely a pool where I see the open bracket team jumping them for that 4 spot. And that's how I see that pool going. So as we move down the list to Pool B, this pool's a stacked pool too. Where you got Rise Nation, Team Caliber, and Luminosity at that 1, 2, 3. That's just a heavy hitting trio right there. And then you got Epsilon Esports rounding us out at number 4, and then obviously the open bracket team at 5. So first and foremost, I have to pick Rise for number 1. Rise has just looked absolutely dominant really ever since this roster formed. It was funny, they started out what was that, Seattle, that was the first LAN that we saw this roster at. They started out really slow, right? They finished like 3rd in their pool, which was just shocking. And then they obviously had to drop. They didn't even make it to winners bracket. But then once they hit that losers bracket, man, they have just been on an absolute tear since. And they just haven't looked back, and that continued with the Pro League. They just wiped out Optic Gaming in the last match of the Pro League, and Gunless in particular, Gunless and Slasher are just arguably, when you have arguably the 2 best players in the game on one roster right now. And I don't know if we've been able to say that really ever since Optic's old roster. I don't know if we've ever seen a roster outside of Optic Gaming have the 2 best players in the game on their roster. I mean, maybe you could argue Black Ops 3 Envy with like Apathy and Slasher, maybe, but it's been a while, and I think that Gunless is clearly the best player in the game right now. I mean, there's like no debate about it. He has just been an absolute animal. Through every map, it just feels like he is just taking over, whether it's Search and Destroy, whether it's Hardpoint, whether it's CTF. The man is just an absolute freak on the sticks, and it's really impressive because he does it with every gun, it feels like. I mean, he's notoriously good with the bar, of course, but I mean, he doesn't drop off with a sub. It's nuts, his ability to just take over with no matter what he's playing and what role he's playing in at that flex position. So definitely have Rise finishing at first in this pool, and then second, Luminosity is a team that I still think is going to find their stride, but I don't think they're going to find it at Anaheim. I think they're going to need more time. They haven't looked too good in Pro League so far. And again, I just think that's largely due to the fact that I just think Formal is not very comfortable in this game. But I think that's going to change soon because he's on a team of 3 established players who know how to win in this game, specifically JCap, who is largely regarded as one of the smartest players of all time. And I think that this is not Luminosity's event, but it wouldn't shock me to see LG really just go off this event and finish like top 4 or something, because we know they have the talent for it. But in my opinion, I think that they're still like an event or 2 off from really hitting their stride and competing for championships. So for that reason, I do have TK finishing at second, even though TK has been a little shaky in Pro League 2. They're not quite, they haven't really been able to get back to their top form we saw at the beginning of the game. I think that's mainly due to the fact that they don't. I think accuracy has struggled a little bit. I know he's back at that main AR, which I think is a good move, right? They have enable at the flex, and I think TK will find their stride some in this event, and I still think that they have one of the best subs in the game in Kenny. And then Pharaoh, I think he's inconsistent, but he definitely has the talent to go off and take over games as well. So overall, I think TK is going to finish second in this group, with Luminosity finishing third. And then again, this is another pool that I think that the open bracket team has a good shot and coming in and jumping Epsilon. Epsilon just hasn't looked very good in Pro League again. It's unfortunate because I think that individually some of these players are pretty talented. I think Vortex is a guy that's shown flashes. We all know Dave is a guy that can show flashes and compete at the top. But overall, or is it Vortex or is it Hockey, the one that's been looking kind of good? I forget, to be honest. I haven't been able to really sit down and watch a ton of Pro League since I was on vacation. But regardless, I think this is a group where the open bracket team, whoever it may be, will jump ahead of Epsilon and finish in the fourth spot, and then Epsilon will finish fifth. So as we move along into Pool C, this is another this to me is the true pool of death, I would say, in terms of, I think any of the top 4 teams could win this pool. It's realistically speaking. EG, who has looked really good so far, as we know, since this roster formed, they had a very impressive second place finish at Seattle. They've looked very good in Pro League so far with a 5-2 record. But I'm still not quite sold on EG. I know that's I'm probably in the minority on that one, but I don't quite know if they're a team, because I think that the reason, in my opinion, they succeeded so much at Seattle was they just out vetoed everyone. Their vetoes were really strong. I think they had they practiced a ton going into the event, and I think they had a really good understanding of what maps that they were good on. And then since they were a new team, a lot of other teams didn't have a great understanding of what their strengths and weaknesses were when it came to the vetoes. So I think EG is going to kind of level out here in this tournament. And I think, honestly, this is a group. I think Echo Fox is going to win this group. I really do. I know Echo Fox has been inconsistent as well, but I think they're a team that has a lot of talent, and they're really hungry to win. And I ultimately see Echo Fox winning this group. I think that they're going to finish first, and then I think EG will finish second, Unilat will finish third, and Mind Freak will finish fourth. But again, I think Mind Freak is a team that's shown a lot of potential throughout Pro League. I mean, again, I question their consistency. I don't think they're a team that's consistent enough to win a pool like this. But I think Mind Freak will upset at least one of the top 3 teams, maybe 2, depending on how they play. But that's going to be a really interesting group to watch. And I don't think whoever the open bracket team will jump anyone. I think that this is, like I said, I think this is the group of death in my opinion. And I think the open bracket team, whoever it may be, will finish fifth. And as we move along, Pool D is another group that you could definitely argue is the group of death as well. And this is obviously the pool with Optic Gaming, Team Envious, Complexity, and Splice. And again, it feels like every damn event, Optic and Envy are in the same group. And this tournament's no different. So this group will be interesting as well. I think that ultimately, again, this is another group where any of the top 4 teams could win this pool, depending on who's hot and who's cold on any given day. So, I think Optic ultimately will come out on top in this group, though. I do expect them to drop a series, though, against one of these teams. Probably, maybe Splice. I think Splice is, they've already proven they can beat Optic. We've seen that already this year. And but again, I think I think it's going to go Optic, Envy, Splice, Complexity. I think that's how it's going to go. Envy, again, I like Envy. I think this Envy roster is starting to find their stride. I like the talent on this team. I think Classic is been underwhelming in this game, but is starting to find his stride. I feel like I say this all the time, but I think Classic is starting to establish himself as a pretty solid flex, and then Hook is finally starting to really find his stride. He's the one that I've been most impressed with ever since Envy formed this new roster. And then Chino is a guy that's kind of a grizzled veteran at this point, knows how to win in this game, has a really good understanding of World War II. And then Decimate is a really talented guy as well. I think that he brings a lot to the table, specifically with Search and Destroy. So I think Envy will finish second in this group. And then I think Splice is going to finish third. I think Splice is they're a hungry team. I think Josh in particular is very hungry. He's very motivated since he got dropped from Red Reserve. And I think Splice has a lot to prove. And I think they're going to come out with a little bit of heat and finish third in this group. And then Complexity, I think, is going to finish fourth. They've looked okay in Pro League. I think they're 3-3 right now, 3-4, something like that. They haven't looked too bad. They're pretty inconsistent as well, but ultimately they're a team I think that can really has the potential to take out anyone, mainly due to their search. Right, this is a team of Search and Destroy veterans, for Search and Destroy masterminds between Ricky, Blast, and Dashy, really too. And Dashy's just in general been a beast. He's really impressed me so far ever since he made his way into Pro League on this team. So, but ultimately, I do think Complexity is going to finish fourth, and whoever the open bracket team will finish fifth. So those are my predictions for pools, guys. And with that said, let's move along to my top 8 predictions. So in number 8 for this tournament, finishing 7th and 8th, I have TK. I think TK will finish top 8, but again, the thing with TK is I question their slaying power, mainly in their ARs. I think Enable and Accuracy haven't, I got to see more from them. And that's where I really kind of question TK. I think Pharaoh and Kenny are actually a pretty underrated sub duo. And I think that I have faith in them as SMG's sub duo to slay, but I question Accuracy and Enable a little bit. So TK I have finishing 8th, and along with them I have FaZe finishing 7th and 8th, and I think FaZe again is a team that is just, I think they're in kind of disarray right now. I think that the role change that they're going through is, I don't know if it's going to benefit them. I think I think the role change kind of indicates to me that they are in a bit of disarray currently, and I don't see FaZe succeeding too much in this tournament, so I do have them finishing 7th and 8th. In 5th, 6th, I have EG at 6th, and again, this is probably a bit of a controversial pick. I know a lot of people probably have EG finishing higher, but again, I think now that teams have been able to watch VODs on them and understand their vetoes, I think that's going to kind of bring EG down a peg, and because again, I think EG is a team that I really kind of question their slaying power when they compete against the top teams, the Rises, the OGs, the Red Reserves. So, that's why I don't think EG is going to be. I think they're definitely going to finish top 8, but I don't quite have them finishing top 4, and that's why I have them at number 6. In 5th, 6th, alongside of EG, I have Splice. Again, this is probably a bit of my underdog pick here. I know Splice has been just really up and down all throughout World War II, and people would argue they downgraded when they picked up Josh and replaced him they replaced Tommy with Josh, and but again, I think Josh is a motivated player. I think he's really motivated right now, and I expect a big performance from him coming into Anaheim. So that's why I have Splice finishing at 5th. In 4th, I have E United. Again, E United, just a wildly inconsistent team, but I think they're really motivated, and again, they're hungrier than ever. And I've been really impressed with Pristini. He's by far been the most improved player of the season as of right now, and I think that he's going to come in and continue along with that. I think Clay is really starting to hit his stride as well at that man AR, and then you couple that along with Arcides, who's really established himself as one of the best flex players in the game, and I think that United are destined for a top 4 finish at number 4. And then at number 3, I have Red Reserve. Again, Red Reserve has looked really strong in my opinion ever since Scraps was added onto the team. I think that Red Reserve is a team that is probably one of the heaviest slaying teams in the game now when Rated's clicking. And I think Red Reserve is gonna play well at this tournament and finish at number 3. And then at number 2, I have OG. Again, OG, I think that they've really impressed me so far, but I don't think that those last 2 Pro League matches were pretty discouraging. I think that that probably did a little dent in their confidence going into this tournament. And but despite that, I still think they're going to finish in second behind Rise. I think Rise again. I don't know how you not pick. It's like it's almost too obvious to pick Rise to win this tournament, but I gotta go with the Rise train to win this tournament. They've just looked so dominant, not just in Pro League, but dating back to Seattle, right? I mean, they won the last LAN. Let's not forget. So, someone's gonna have to really struggle on Rise for them not to win, in my opinion. Who hasn't struggled so far? Because again, Gunless and Slasher alone are 2 players that can just take over games. It almost doesn't even matter what Looney and TJ do on half the maps because of how dominant Gunless and Slasher have looked so far. So I definitely have Rise winning CWL Anaheim, and again, it's just due to Gunless and Slasher. Those 2 have just looked like absolute beasts in this game so far, and I expect them to carry that into CWL Anaheim. But with that said, guys, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. I'm really excited for Anaheim. I hope all you guys tune in. I will have a post CWS Anaheim episode out on probably Monday or Tuesday, hopefully, just to break all the results down, talk about that. I also want to make worth mention that I know I've said this before, but guests are happening. So if you message me on Reddit about wanting to be a guest on the show, I will be reaching out to you. And if you didn't reach out to me and do want to be on an episode, please reach out to me as well on Twitter, on Reddit, wherever all my links to my social media will be in the description. So reach out to me on Twitter if you are interested in coming on for an episode. I'm really excited to have some actual discussions with other people. I think that will make for a much more interesting podcast, much more engaging podcast. And I think you guys will enjoy it a lot. So with that said, guys, be on the lookout for that. Follow me on Twitter. Like this episode, share it if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to me on YouTube and iTunes. Leave me a rating and a review. It really helps with exposure as well as understanding how I can improve upon and make this podcast a better experience for you all. And with that said, guys, that's going to do it. And I will see you guys next week.